Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, Dr. Darryl Williams is the founder, CEO and chief scientist of Partsol, a Florida-based software company which specialises in cognitive AI solutions. Uniquely, Partsol has located an office in Dublin because of GDPR. So why did the presence of GDPR appeal to Partsol? Darryl joins us now to reveal all. Darryl, we'll be discussing how Partsol will disrupt the existing generative AI models. But first, I'd like to get an insight into your own background.
Good morning, Karl. Thank you for the opportunity. Sure. My background is academically. I'm accounting and finance, international business, and a doctorate in business. I was in the United States military as an officer for 20 years. From there, I actually wrote these algorithms to deal with strategic surprise globally. Retired in 2007, started Partsol as a very manually intensive, bespoke services business. But with the onset of COVID, we realized that these algorithms look at everything globally all at the same time. We were asked to scale, so we applied true artificial intelligence to the algorithms. And now the demand is viral. And so now we are a SaaS technology business. The underlying part of the algorithms is that they deconstruct supply chains. The theory is that everything in the world is bounded by a supply chain. That's moving a widget from point A to point B. It's moving people, places, ideology, money. And if I could map them deep enough, then I can predict activity with incredible granularity. But I learned very early on, back in the early 2000s, that error is in data. And so I created the algorithms so that they are grounded to foundational science. And so it actually filters out error before it actually starts mapping and then predicting. And so we had non-hallucinating AI before anyone ever thought about hallucinating AI. And so right now it's working for fintech, know your customer, anti-money laundering, things like that.
Atai has been described as a cognitive AI platform as it mimics the way that the human brain works. But how is cognitive AI different to generative AI?
That's a great question. I would actually go next step further that we're a new category of cognitive AI with context. But to actually answer your question is that there is the knowledge, it's not even an assumption, that all data is polluted. It has inferences, it has biases, it has misinformation. And what generative AI does, generative AI takes all of this data and then generates something, either a report or a graph or whatever else. But since it's using polluted data, it in itself is polluted decisions. Now, granted, it could be 88% or as low as 70 to 60%. Most people don't really care, but there are some markets like national security, financial technology, legal, health, where 100% accuracy is required 100% of the time. And so our algorithms, it filters the pollution out of the data, and then it creates a factual decision. But we go the next step further, since we are binding that decision in science and context, both in front of it and behind it. We then can actually give information that someone can make a decision and actually know the ramifications of that decision. That's where you have context.
So what impact could this AI platform have on today's world?
Monumental. We've only begun to scratch the surface. I mean, we're in those four things with fintech and everything else. However, what we have found is that everything from geopolitics to cancer to pharmacology to business, I mean, we have the ability of looking at every single commodity, 40 levels from every commodity, and predict activities 10 to 12 months in advance. Our biggest thing as a business, I have to maintain focus on what will generate revenue. And so that is fintech, health tech, legal tech, and national security. But really, there is no limits because it's bounded by truth. But then also with truth, you have your discussions about ethics. So it opens up a great good, or it could open up a lot of discussions about great harm.
And talk to us about the concept of absolute truth and why it is critically important to your business.
Sure. Absolute truth many people have argued with me that there is no such thing about absolute truth, to which point I tell them to climb up on a skyscraper and jump. There are some things that doesn't matter what you think, there is truth, gravity, for example. And so these 90 foundational sciences, when they come together, that end product is absolute truth. It is provable. It is verifiable. And so at that point there, it gives you truth. What means to us is that it means we're the only AI organization out there that has AI grounded in truth and that produces truth. So for everyone that's trying to do open AI or generative AI or whatever else, as long as they're happy with 88% accuracy or whatever that accuracy is, that's great. But if they need 100% accuracy, for example, if you want to go into a surgeon, most people aren't going to choose someone that made a B in college. They want someone that made an A. There are verticals where 100% accuracy is existential, and those are the verticals that we market to.
So why did you decide to locate the business here in Ireland as opposed to the US? And what are your growth plans for the Irish and European market?
The United States really is an epicenter of innovation, but the noise is so loud there when it comes to AI, in that you have all of these ones throwing hundreds of billions of dollars around. And so ultimately, the first reason I decided to relocate to Dublin was just to get out of the noise. I mean, Dublin is a fantastic, and Ireland is a fantastic ecosystem for technology, and the people that you can acquire here to help you are second to none. So that was the first reason. But then there's this thing called GDPR, and when we saw the power of our system, we knew everyone would be scared of it. So we actually look at the regulation from GDPR as a competitive advantage, not as a detriment. So we initially located here to just help our company grow. But what we found is that from Dublin, the whole world is open to us. And so it started as a headquarters, but right now as the CEO, I've informed everyone around here that this is going to be our world headquarters, with cost centers for Dublin being Europe, Mediterranean, Israel. I just got back from Dubai. Dubai will be the cost center for MENA, and then Singapore will be for the Pacific area. So Dublin has gone from having a staff of maybe 20 to us looking at a staff of north of 60 probably in the next 3 quarters.
I have to say, Darryl, you're one of the first people that ever said to me that GDPR was one of the reasons that you decided to locate in Ireland.
When you have a system that really is powerful, there's a lot of other AI out there, but when you have a system that when people see it, they disbelieve until you prove it, the next thing that always comes in their mind is ethics. And then ethics always then permeates down to privacy and concerns. And so knowing that this would be a possible barrier of entry to multiple different verticals, I made a decision that we're going to tackle this head on. And so we have a great legal team that is ensuring that we do not go against GDPR. We found that embracing it as a competitive advantage has actually opened up myriads of markets that we never expected.
And what are your thoughts on the EU AI Act? Because there is a feeling amongst a lot of business people that Europe has over-regulated itself at this stage, and it's become almost a competitive disadvantage for the market.
I'll tell you, I read the act. Probably one of the few people that did and actually stayed awake. But I looked at it as an extremely logical document that, now it could be a little bit strict in that it's fears, but ultimately from Trinity College to multiple other entities in Ireland that have looked at our system, like I said, as soon as they see the real true power of AI, both for good or could be used for great bad, ethics comes up. And so when I look at the EU agreement is that it's in essence saying if we don't regulate this, then we'll have an ethical problem. Well, that becomes an issue in itself in that you can't really regulate ethics. We look at it as since we actually deal with truth, we have to deal with ethics. For example, let's say that we find a cure for cancer and everybody lives to be 180 and the world resources cannot handle 20 to 30 billion people. Well, now you're looking at it wrong. Ethics really means that the same AI that can come up with a cure for cancer can come up for a cure with hunger. And so we look at it as a fertile ground for which we can actually control the narrative.
And Darryl, of course, Partsol has recently completed a $28 million funding round with friends and family. That must have been a great validation for your vision for this. But I believe you're also open now to seeking investment from investment banks.
That is correct. We have, like I said, we have capital now to deliver even the next evolution of AI, which is already being worked. However, we are still a small company, and a small company requires institutions. So we are still looking at institutional investors. My challenge to some of my contacts here in Ireland is we have embraced this culture. We have embraced this country. We are here to stay. We are opening up a global headquarters here. It sure would be nice to have Irish institutional investors that will get behind this capability.
And who are your competitors? Like, is ChatGPT and others your competitors ultimately here?
They are competitors in noise. I mean, they have hundreds of billions of dollars that can scream louder than us. And so to them, I would say, yes, they're competitors, but in reality, when it comes to a customer that needs to have complete accuracy with their AI, there's no one else like us.
And what are your long-term growth plans for Partsol, and are you likely to become an acquisition target?
I, as a CEO, am going to continue to move forward with the strategic plan of building the world headquarters. That being said, there are very large corporations out there that are dumping hundreds of billions of dollars into trying to improve accuracy, but because they're using data which is polluted, they have no chance. And so having the Partsol layer that goes between their data streams and their generative AI is probably the only way that they can monetize their AI capabilities. So acquisition, I'm not going out looking at it, but I do expect to hear from some of these.
And what's on your product roadmap over the coming years?
Yeah, so right now we are doing advanced or enhanced due diligence for know your customer, anti-money laundering, risk assessments, all of that stuff. But there is a huge desire to do forensic supply chain analysis, of which we just signed our first customer in UAE under Gulfcraft, luxury yachts. So we can actually go very deep into a supply chain and give someone complete transparency of not only the supply chain, but also the markets and the competitors. We do that now, but we're now teaching our AI to do it in milliseconds versus in minutes and hours.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Darryl Williams from Partsol, and I'd like to wish Darryl every success in growing his business.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.